The wind knows me. Clouds high. The birds come.
Wipe this off the side.
Childe is an amazing character in Bloom teams. He's amazing in the Hydro application, and so when you pair him up with the Dendro character, you get loads of seeds created which do a lot of damage. And so I have a few teams here that use him pretty well. So let's start with the first one, which is this Hyperbloom team. Now the Dendro teams for Childe are not that flexible, and I found the best rotations and compositions for him, and they're gonna stay the same for you if you want to use him properly, because Childe is a weird character in team comps due to the way his skill works. Like for example here, the rotation I recommend is Electro character first, then an Anemo character to swirl the Electro, then apply Dendro, and then finally Childe. Now here you can only do this one rotation. I don't find the other rotations that great, and this to be the best. But for Burgeon, there are two rotations that I find really good because of the way Kazuha's burst works. It may be different for Sucrose, but we'll talk about that later. So you can basically use any Electro unit instead of Yaemiko. You just need to apply Electro so the Anemo character can swirl it. And for the artifacts here, you can actually run Gilded Dreams on Kazuha if your character isn't a sub DPS, the Electro character, and you're not swirling Hydro. So because of the EM Kazuha gets, because here Kazuha is the one doing Hyperbloom, not the Electro character, and so your Hyperbloom damage increases due to the EM Kazuha has. In terms of how good this team is, you've been seeing it in the background running. It's actually really strong. Like, it's actually pretty good. Mostly I run this team with Yaemiko, Kokomi, and Dendro character and Kazuha, but I'm actually gonna exchange Kokomi for Childe because of how good this team actually is. Like, it's really good. For Burgeon, it's a bit similar to Electro, but here your choice of characters is limited. Like for example, you can't use the Traveler here, and you have to use Kole as the Traveler's burst explodes if Pyro is added to it. And second, though you can use any Pyro character here to apply Pyro, it's very important that you use a character that can protect you from the Burgeon damage. Trust me, it gets crazy. Like, the only character that can do this is someone like Thoma or Bennett. Like, Bennett here, in my opinion, is the best character used, but Thoma should be fine as well if your shields are strong enough. But if you're able to make this team, I'd say this team is better than Hyperbloom because it applies Pyro to the enemies, which makes it so Childe can vaporize sometimes, and so your Childe ends up doing a lot more damage. And about the rotations, so first you have to use your Pyro character to apply Pyro, and then Kazuha or any Anemo character to swirl that Pyro, then your Dendro character to apply Dendro, then Tartaglia, and yeah, it's crazy. The amount of numbers there was just so much. But as you can see, it also does a lot of damage to your characters themselves, and that's why Bennett is so important in Burgeon teams. But as you can see, the rotations are actually pretty good. If you have energy recharge on all of them, you can quickly just use Tartaglia, go to Bennett again, Kazuha, swirl, Koli. It's pretty good. Now, I did get Koli killed here because she does not have a lot of HP because she's just level 20. I need to level her up. But even then, it's pretty good. And this is just to show you guys how good this team is. Now, this team could have done a lot better than my other teams, but Koli's burst doesn't last that long, and so I didn't have Dendro application at the end, but it's still pretty good. Now, for the second rotation, you basically use Tartaglia's E to, swirl Hydro, and then you use Bennett to swirl his Pyro, and then you use Kazuha's burst to, swirl the Pyro. And the reason this works is because Kazuha's burst will actually prioritize Pyro over Hydro, and so you're gonna swirl Pyro even if there's Hydro applied. And this actually also works for Sucrose. And as you saw, Childe's damage was a lot more because we actually swirled Hydro as well. And this team would have been faster if I didn't mess up, killing both of the samurais at the same time. But as you can see, it's pretty good. Like, this rotation is also pretty good. Now, I couldn't swirl the Hydro for this enemy because, there was no Hydro applied on the enemy. But I still just went with it and did the first rotation instead with, swirling Pyro from Bennett's burst and just went with it, and it worked, I guess. So you can use either one. They're not that far off from each other. And these two Hyperbloom and Burgeon teams do really well against bosses too. Like, Childe isn't that great against bosses. I mean, he's still pretty good, but he's generally better for many enemies bunched up together. But with the help of Burgeon and Hyperbloom, he's insane for bosses. The seeds just do so much damage, and because of Childe, there are just so many more seeds now that the damage on, to the bosses is just so much more than just having Childe alone. It's just great for Childe. Now for Fridge teams, they're pretty good, but there are a few problems that I noticed, but nothing too bad. For the teams themselves, the rotations are quite simple, and here you have two things you can do for Childe. You can either have him be on a DPS build or an EM build. First, I will show you him on a DPS build. Now, the reason why you would want to have Childe on an EM build is because in Fridge teams, there's no Hyperbloom or Burgeon, and so the one creating the seeds will be the one, dealing the most damage. So here, you need to have Tartaglia be on an EM build if you want to, so your seeds do a lot more damage. And you're gonna see how later on the team with Childe having an EM build does a lot more than this. Like, as you can see, the seeds are doing between 7,000 to 10,000, sometimes a bit lower, but because sometimes you can have the Traveler actually making the seeds because of Childe's great application. It's not that frequent, but sometimes I did see it happen. So yeah, it's pretty good. And by the way, you can replace Ganyu with someone like Diona or Rosaria. You don't have to have Ganyu. Now for Childe using his EM build, he's actually on 900 EM right now, or even more, I guess, like 1000 something, because he has Gilded Dreams. And yeah, he does a lot of damage. Like the seeds, you can see they're gonna do 23,000, which is a lot. So I find this better than the team without an EM build. I think it's just a bit stronger, and you're gonna see that the enemies are gonna die so much quicker. And surprisingly, I thought this would be really bad for Childe because the bloom damage would be also onto the character, and because of the amount of seeds and the amount of damage they're doing, I thought like Childe would die instantly because of just like Burgeon. But here we have no heals. Now somehow I do trigger Burgeon, and that's the reason why my Childe is dying here. But without Burgeon, it's actually not that bad. Now to fix the problem with the Dendro Traveler actually making the seeds instead of Tartaglia, you can actually have two Dendro units to fix this. Now I would prefer this, even though this would mean like only Childe would be the one making the seeds. But I just think that Kazuha is so much more important, or like your animal character, to punch up the enemies for Childe and the seeds themselves. So I would use this, but if you wanna, you can do this. And if you're curious about my build, here it is. It's not that great because I don't usually use Childe, but I guess it's fine. Overall, I'd say I really like how I can use Childe now. Like, I got Childe 1 year ago and never used him because I got Hu Tao right after. But now because of Dendro, which I really like, he fits really well with it, and so I'll definitely be using him more. And seeing how Nahida is the next character, Dendro is gonna get a lot stronger, and I feel like Childe's Hydra application is gonna be really useful for that. Like, even now, we don't have a character that's really good for Hyperbloom or Burgeon, and we have to use like animal characters. But this will all change in the future, so I expect Childe to get even stronger. But anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope this helped, and if you did enjoy the video, then please leave a like, and if you really want to help me out, you can subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!